All right, today I want to talk about the whole idea that you don't need a massive following in order to make money online. You really do not. And you know what? People like Stephen Bartlett, the Diary of a CEO, and Gary Vaynerchuk, they would actually agree with me. And I say that because, well, most of what I'm going to be sharing with you guys today are lessons that I have learned and taken away from these books in order to help me grow a decent revenue with a micro YouTube channel. And this is, I know I've been saying this the last few videos, but just for proof of concept, I literally made 6 figures with my YouTube channel. It has 26,000 subs now. It had 24 at the time, and I won this plaque, which shows that I did earn 6 figures using literally only 2 things, YouTube and Stan Store. So with that being said, if you are somebody who's very attracted to the idea of having a very minimalistic business model, and you really want to use YouTube as not a content platform, but what it really is, a traffic platform, then this video is exactly for you. Now, in this whole process of generating revenue with traffic using a small YouTube channel, basically meaning if you don't have a big audience and you want to still be able to make money with your audience and generate traffic, you can do it, but you have to understand a few things first. And it's something that Gary Vee talks about in his book called Day Trading Attention. It's actually in the very beginning, if I don't recall correctly. Or if I recall correctly. And essentially, without me turning to the page, just paraphrasing here, you have to first know that the most important thing to understand is fundamentally attention. And to understand that, there are really 2 kind of pillars that you need to focus on. One is what I like to refer to as content psychology, but the other one is knowing your specific audience, knowing what your specific audience is giving attention to inside of the social media landscape, just fundamentally understanding what attention is, how to kind of leverage it, and how to hit on people's or get in people's feed based off of that knowledge. And it's really important to, just to kind of backtrack a little bit, that when your focus is not vanity metrics on YouTube, but your focus is to generate revenue, I want you to fundamentally change your philosophy when it comes to content, how you approach content. And I want you to understand that there are 2 ways to approach content, and the one that will allow you to generate the most amount of revenue with the least amount of volume, if you will, of people or audience size, is focusing on YouTube not as a content platform, but as a traffic one. Because a business without traffic is just an idea. And I've said this in multiple videos already, but it's because it's so true. And when you focus on YouTube being a traffic platform, you don't get lost in the micro optimizations that I just view as noise in terms of business or in terms of conversions to a business offer. And you stay focused on the real needle moving things that you should be focused on. Gary Vee talks about in his book, Day Trading Attention, obviously that making content or attention he likens it to day trading, the actual job where you're actually day trading stocks. People who are really successful with day trading stocks, they always have their finger on the pulse as to kind of what's going on within the stocks that they're day trading, right? They're always in the loop. And similarly, we kind of need to be in the loop in regards to who we're targeting, right? In regards to, like, if we're day trading attention, the same way day traders day trade stocks, we want to, the same way they understand their stocks really, really well, where everything about them, typically the best ones do, we want to do the same thing with our audience. We want to get super clear on who they are and what are their pain points, what are their desires, and we want to be able to be in the loop as to what content are they currently consuming, right? Who are they watching? What can we say in order to be relatable to their pain points and show them a solution and basically make ourselves the next logical kind of step in the process for them reaching that solution through our either free lead magnet or paid offer. Something that he also talks about in the book, which I really love, because this is fundamentally just like marketing from the beginning of time. He used TV and radio as an example. It's like when people started listening to radio and seeing that they were like commercials, or TV, they would say, oh, why don't I just kind of pay these newscasters or these companies to be able to just kind of, they're already garnishing attention. Why can't I just pay them to kind of jump in for 30 seconds and share my stuff and have them buy my stuff? And that worked. But the only thing here, and what he talks about a little bit, I'm kind of paraphrasing, going off, tying it in with my own thoughts as well here, is marketing has evolved and people have evolved a lot. So back then, people could just have a radio station about anything, and then they could buy an ad spot and talk about some random product or offer. And yeah, people might convert and be interested, but we live in a time of interest media where marketing is evolved in a way that it has to become much more interest focused, much more niched down. People have become smarter as well. Their trust radar has become more attuned to, stuff that feels very scammy or versus stuff that's actually legit. And it's really important to know that because again, it all comes back down to content psychology. What is content psychology, by the way? It's essentially like, I know it sounds like this woohoo word, cool, Dylan, content psychology, but can you like explain that? Yes, I can. Content psychology is essentially like the whole thesis or like premise that we create content focusing not on trends or algorithm hacks, but we create content focused on pain points of our ideal client profile, desires, curiosities, fears, etc. Right? We create or craft our content according to those different things. The things really focusing on why people click and watch, right? The deeper rooted reason why people click and watch. That is content psychology. So when looking at a video title, before going live with the video, asking yourself, does this title evoke curiosity within my ideal client profile? Does it maybe hit on a pain point that they might have? Maybe it's being broke, or maybe a desire they have is, making an X amount of money or getting in a six pack. So does my title hit on that desire? This is content psychology. This is what I mean by implementing content psychology within your content creation process. And also another lesson, and this one comes from this book right here, which is my number one all-time favorite book. It's called The Diary of a CEO by Stephen Bartlett. If you know anything or have watched any of my stuff, you know I never shut up about this book and always recommend it. It is my all-time favorite book. I'm on my third time reading it. It is amazing. And for those of you guys who are new to the channel, basically, I competed in a contest called the Stand Store Challenge. And essentially it was like, who can generate the most revenue through selling an item on Stand Store in a certain amount of time, right? And I basically won this plaque because I generated over $100,000 with Stand Store. And I used only one thing to do it during that time frame. And by the way, I won the challenge. I got 5th place. It was the top 10, won, and got flown out to meet with Gary Vee. I won 5th, and then ahead of me were a couple other just absolute killers. One of the biggest lessons in doing that time, which by the way, I didn't use paid ads. I didn't use anything. I literally only used my organic YouTube traffic. And at the time, I had 24,000 subscribers. I have like 26, almost 27 now, but I had 24 at the time of doing that. And this is what I mean by you can make a lot of revenue, a lot more than you think with a much smaller audience than you think. But one of the biggest key takeaways was in Law 21 inside of his book. It's called Law 21, which basically in his book means chapters. So each chapter is segmented through laws. And in this law, there was a line that I literally underlined it and bookmarked it because I went back to it throughout the entire challenge. Because there was parts of the challenge where I was trying to generate this revenue and I was looking at other people's follower count. I was like, they got 1 million subscribers or 1 million followers. How am I going to do this with 24,000? And I let the numbers dilute my perspective on what actually matters. And it was this line right here. Stephen Bartlett has a whole chapter where he talks about it, but I'll basically just share the most important line that really rings true in my mind. In fact, I want to get it printed on a print behind me because it helped me so much. It's, if you want to increase your chances of success, you must increase, what does he say next? You must increase your failure rate. That's really powerful stuff. And I'll talk about failure in just a second. But essentially the lesson here is a lot of people who work in the YouTube strategy world, and I don't like to consider myself a YouTube strategist, by the way, even though that's like largely what my channel is about. I like to view myself as an entrepreneur who uses YouTube as a traffic engine and just got really good at understanding how YouTube works. That being said, a lot of people in the YouTube strategist world, they know that if they work with a client, 100% of the videos or 10 out of 10 of the videos will not be outliers. They will not blow up. It is next to impossible, very difficult to make every single video a super high performing outlier. It just doesn't happen, right? So with that in mind, what I did during the challenge and what I'll continue to do is focus on coming out with as much focused volume as I possibly can. Basically, and by the way, when like Gary Vee, when I was with him in person, he literally explained what focus volume means. It essentially means posting as much content as you can without being lazy when it comes to really 3 levers. I guess it was really more so his team that said this. Those 3 most important levers, you don't need anything else but these 3 most important levers. Anything outside of these 3 levers are what I like to call micro optimizations. They can move the needle 0 to 5 miles per hour, 0 to 10 miles per hour. But what moves the needle 0 to 100 miles per hour, it's going to be 1, the most important thing and lever to pull is your idea. 2 is your packaging, your title and your thumbnail. And 3 is the value in the video. Okay. And I say this because I have videos where I don't have them edited or I don't have them scripted and they're still converting lots of back-end revenue and also getting views for me. And I don't say this to brag. That's the last person in earth I want to be, is like the guy who shows off my plaque and is like, yeah, 100K, whatever. Like, no, I don't want the focus to be on that. I want the focus to be on the system and the principles that I'm relaying to you. Not the outcome. The outcome is a byproduct of dialing all of the systems and principles in. So basically what I've done during the time and what I'm doing now is focused volume. It's where I focus on as much content as possible and focusing on those 3 levers. But why? Well, going back to what Stephen Bartlett said, right? He says, if you want to increase your chances of success, whatever that means to you, you must increase your failure rate. Okay, great. So if I know that the only 3 levers to focus on are idea, packaging, and value, that reduces a lot of friction off of my plate. That reduces a lot of different steps. I don't have to spend hours scripting. I don't have to spend hours or days editing now. Why? I can literally do 1 video a day if I needed to, because if I focus on the 3 levers, my content will still maintain focus. It'll just get done at a greater output, meaning the volume will increase. So that also means factoring in the principle that Stephen Bartlett in this book talked about. If I post every single day, focusing on those 3 levers versus posting once a week, focusing on the micro optimizations and having those dialed in. And listen, take this with a grain of salt because for some people, you need those things. However, if your goal is this, I'm really talking to entrepreneurs, and this is what you want to focus on. And if I post once a day focusing on those 3 levers, then I will increase the amount I have videos that do not perform. Also increasing, compounding on each other, the likelihood of me having more videos that actually perform well. It is the principle in action. The more volume that I do, as long as I keep it focused, so it's not just more noise in a sea of sameness, the more volume I do will result in more success. Because if I post 6 videos and one of them gets 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 views or whatever, right? And brings me a bunch of revenue, then that means I just, like mathematically, it would take me 6 weeks to do that if I'm coming out with once a week versus I would have 1 high performer a week. See what I'm saying? Now, granted, of course, it's not like binary like that. It doesn't unfortunately work like that, but still the whole premise or principle still works as really talked about here. The more failure that you compound, he articulates it so much better than I can. I sound dumb. What does he say? Yeah, if you want to increase your chances of success, you must increase your failure rate. By the way, guys, one small thing I want to talk about with failure. I see people are like, oh, failure. I don't remember if I mentioned this in a video or not, but if I have, whatever. People view failure all wrong. They think that, and this is important, one thing I wish he did explain in this chapter, which, he doesn't need to, but a lot of people are like, okay, so all I need to do is fail. No, because for a long time, many years, all I did was fail. And I did not compound those failures to success. Failure only compounds to quote unquote success, as Stephen Bartlett words it, if you stop and analyze the failure. It's the same thing with YouTube videos. Usually, if you have a video that doesn't perform, you can get a lot of really good data from that in terms of what you should do better next time. Only if you analyze it. So the whole key to like failing forward or having failure compound to lead to success, it is only applicable if you stop and analyze the failure. Okay, so this is a really important caveat I want to mention with this principle or lesson that I took with me during that time. And for the people who want to sit here and hyper fixate over quality when it comes to videos, first of all, I get it. Like that was me for a long time. I only just recently started doing this format, literally switching to this format ever since speaking with Gary Vee, VaynerMedia, and a couple other really like inspiring people, like shout out to Arlen, who got me to do this type of content. because this type of content's really what converts better at the end of the day. But anyways, I get it for those of you who want to hyperfixate on quality. I totally understand. But I want to share an illustration with you that I got from Chris Williamson. He's my favorite podcast host. He's the podcast host of Modern Wisdom. And in one of his podcasts with Alex Ramosi, he talks about this illustration, or this really like this test that was done where this school took two groups of students, and the whole premise or goal of this experiment was to have them make a pot. And it was like, whichever group will win is the group who creates the most perfect or the better pot. One group was assigned to focus on volume. So just make as many pots as you can. In, let's say, I don't remember the exact time frame, but let's say it was like a 7-day project. Just make as many pots as you can in that 7 days. And then that's your guys' goal. And then the second group was just make one pot, but it has to be a perfect pot. So that group, basically TLDR, the group that won was the one that focused on volume, because they had failed hands-on so many times through action that they learned how to make a good pot. The other ones just studied how to do it and then tried like figuring it all out, the logistics and all that stuff. And then they made one pot and it wasn't even remotely as good as the group that focused on volume. All that to say, unless you have reps put in to YouTube, just try to get as much as volume as you can, focused volume as you can out. So as long as your videos hit on a good idea, good packaging and value, then just kind of forget everything else for now until you have enough reps to put in for quality to make sense, in a sense where like you spend a whole week on a video instead of 3 videos a week, right? I hope that was articulated well. So just sum this up, how attention actually turns into revenue. Making sure that you focus on 3 levers, which is your idea, your packaging, your value in your videos, and making sure you know who you're speaking to. So like who your target is or who your ideal client profile is. And then just asking yourself, like with every video, what's the point of me making this? And then understanding, as Gary Vee says, understanding that you're day trading attention. So try to learn where those people are, like where are they watching content, what is trending for them, what are they into, and most importantly, focus on the content psychology of your ideal client profile. So what are their deepest pains, their desires, what are their deepest curiosity triggers, what are some emotions that you can hit on with that ideal client profile, and then just do that and create content focusing on that. And keep in mind the principle from Stephen Bartlett, which is basically, just to repeat again, if you want to increase your chances of success, you must increase your failure rate. So just do more volume, focusing on those 3 levers, and you'll crush it. You also have to have a strong synergy, which I talk about in other videos, between your audience, your content, and your offer. In fact, if you guys want to watch that video next, I'll put it right here on screen so you guys can click there and watch a video where I basically break that down. Alternatively, this experience that I had going to VaynerMedia, meeting with Gary Vee, the CEO of Stan Store, John Hu, and the whole team, all of it, it was life-changing. I learned so much. I actually made a complete free training on the system that I used to win this plaque right here. All of the learnings that I learned from them as well. So if you guys want to learn how to take a small YouTube channel, basically like a micro audience, and be able to turn it into revenue by focusing on the things that actually move the needle forward in terms of traffic to offer, like from a logistical business standpoint, then you should go watch that free training. It's in the first link in the description below. With that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.